great Heath Ledger line where he's like, why is everyone in love with this girl? What, does she have beer coming out of her tits or something?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, high school Heath Ledger.
One of the great actors of our generation.
Yeah.
Dude, this morning I got more excited than I've been in like years.
You were
for video
actually
games.
glowing, I think.
Okay, so this morning they released the trailer for the HD remake of Nights, okay?
Is that Nights into Dreams?
That is Nights into
Yes.
Dreams. I have mixed feelings about HD remakes, but sometimes, man, they're the best thing. Sometimes they're the best thing.
I would say more often than not, they are the best thing.
Yeah.
They're not foolproof. They can be messed up, but
Please see Silent Hill 2 HD.
yeah, I love HD stuff. I actually, I'm really just completely desperate for playing Super Metroid on my big dumb TV.
Oh, please, right?
All I want is,
But it's not HD.
it's not HD. I bought a stupid Nintendo Classic controller for my Wii so that I can play it because that was slightly cheaper than buying an actual Super Nintendo.
But I think for 2D stuff, for classic 2D stuff, that's fine.
Pixels?
I think upscaling pixel art usually works. I
Yeah.
think the HD remake
There's no textures.
is a specific thing to early 3D.
Yeah,
Because
which
early 3D does not
doesn't
age.
well.
Right.
I still want to see an HD remake of Super Metroid. I just want to see people like
Yeah.
play Shadow Complex, and I'm like, there's no fucking Metroids in that, you idiot. And then I
Also-
step on their neck until
Also,
they can't
zip
breathe.
it, Nolan North.
Yeah.
Zip it. For once.
But yeah, no, I played a Metal Gear Solid HD collection.
Yeah.
I love that, in spite of parts of it feeling very dated.
So that's the thing, is like, that's the danger.
Controls cannot be upscaled to HD.
No. Well, I mean, that's the thing, is they could.
They could.
They could very easily, well, probably not very easily, because they don't do it very often, but they
Depends on the
could
engine,
modernize the controls.
Like, you look at Metal Gear Solid 3, so they took the traditional Metal Gear franchise and basically gave it Splinter Cell controls.
Right.
And it was fantastic.
Sure.
Right?
So why didn't they, in the HD collection, give me kind of controls like that in 2? Because here's the deal. I was not a huge Metal Gear guy.
Yeah.
You were, I know, and like I don't know if you were, but I played them. I played them like a little bit, and I've always found them interesting, but I never played them through. So I bought the HD collections for my Vita. Started playing 2, and it's like button to lean out, button to pull gun, button to shoot gun, but like the other button is like your weird, useless binoculars or camera or whatever, and I'm just like, it's awkward.
Right.
Yeah.
It's clumsy at this point, and some games just don't age really well.
We just played a Tony Hawk Pro Skater HD.
Yep.
How'd that feel?
I really liked it. When I first I was super excited because I played the hell out of, the old Tony Hawks. Putting a controller in my hand and trying to control it, there's a little bit of whiplash. It was kind of like that moment where you're super excited to meet up with like a friend from middle school because you guys have this great history.
Yeah.
But then like you sit down to have a beer with him and you're just like,
And he's like a racist meth
what
dealer.
do I talk about with you? Like, well,
He's still just telling
maybe
jokes
it's-
from middle school, and you're
Yeah.
like, okay, so some parts of you haven't changed.
But
Sorry, I grew up in Florida. They usually wind up racist
meth dealer.
There you
Sure.
go.
Sorry.
But an hour in, you forget about that and you're
Yeah.
back to old times. And that's kind of how I felt about Tony Hawk. Like 45 minutes in, I'm like, okay, it's not auto-correcting for me when I like go off the ramp at the wrong angle.
You can't revert.
I can't revert. That's cool. It's super authentic in that way.
Yeah.
But I think it's a great thing. I'm gonna spend a lot of time with it. Am I gonna spend more time with it than I would with like a new skate game? Probably not.
Right.
Probably not.
And that's the thing, is some of it is, and you do hear people online going, oh, they're just trying to capitalize on nostalgia. They should just make a new game in the series.
Right.
Yeah, remember that time they did Duke Nukem Forever?
But that's what I'm saying, is like, would you maybe get more out of a new entry in the series? Potentially. Like, potentially, yes.
But it's a gamble, and you gotta build from the ground up. Hindsight, 2020.
Yeah.
Nostalgia needs corrective lenses, and that's where the whole HD thing comes in. Because what you remember as really good graphics when you were 12, not so much anymore.
Sure.
However, a good game will still, for the most part, be a good game.
Well, and some games can be improved upon, for sure. So like, I buy a lot of these HD collections, and one of the ones that I bought was the Prince of Persia one. And Sands of Time had these bits in it where you would be jumping, like specifically in rooms with grids of columns, right? And some of the columns are broken, these rooms. And there would be one where you're trying to jump and you're like, that column is to my right. No, that column is back and to your right. And so now you're dead, you've wasted sand. Playing it in HD on a 3D TV, like it's in 3D, I'm like, oh, that column is back there.
The game was
all of a sudden,
ahead of its time.
Interesting.
boom, all of a sudden I can play the game and those cheap deaths go away.
Wow, that's crazy.
Yeah.
That's like, I mean, that's the best use of 3D that I've heard of.
Yeah, it's great.
Huh.
It makes it a lot better.
perception.
Yeah.
It works that way in Eco too. Sometimes in Eco, you're like looking at things, you're trying to figure things out, and it's like totally clear in 3D.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Well, so you brought up Duke Nukem. I feel like the Duke Nukem 3D
Talking about
would
controls.
not work as an HD re-release.
You say that, except it's been done. There was the fan-made high-res pack, which is fantastic. You can get just
Is it fantastic though?
yeah.
Did you pay $20 for it?
No, it was free.
Would you pay $20 for a packaged HD Duke Nukem 3D?
Yes.
There's an HD texture pack for Deus Ex,
Yeah.
because Deus Ex is still a brilliant game, but it's just really hard to look at.
Yeah.
But you can download this 2 gig texture pack, and you're just like, boom, there you go. Now it looks great. They're doing it with Black Mesa,
Bigger than the game itself.
if Black Mesa ever comes out.
Yeah,
It will never-
somebody was talking about doing it with Dark Forces for Star Wars.
Yeah.
That's another thing is people talk about is you can always go back and get these games for PC anyway. You
Yeah.
can get the original games. You can't necessarily run them.
Yeah,
It's
your
kinda
mileage
tough.
definitely varies. I downloaded I downloaded the original Thief game, and like it's still awesome. Still, it ran well, but I know a lot of the times like.
But that's why this used to be a community project thing. Like that's
Right.
what's interesting is HD remakes, keeping old games going used to be the job of the fans and the job of the community.
Right.
But now it's so easy. Like these companies have realized it's so easy to do it themselves and to actually make a little money off of it. Because these guys can sit around for 3 years and try to convert Duke Nukem. But like if somebody did it tomorrow for $15,
If that's your day job,
Done.
it'll get done a lot quicker.
and you wonder how many people it would take to do that. Like, how many people does Sega really need to put on the HD port of Jet Set Radio? Like, how many people working full time need to convert nights into dreams? Because I feel like if you just devoted, especially like these companies that have like a lot of IP and a lot of like old franchises, just put a team of like 4 guys full time, all the time on updating your IP and
You'll make
putting
your
it out
money
there.
back.
Well, for sure.
Any publisher that's been around for longer than 10 years should have an in-house studio that specializes in this, especially with the percentage of game sales that is going to be done via digital distribution.
Well,
Next
did you
generation.
see in the beginning of this Nights trailer the logo that came up?
Yes,
it
I
wasn't
did.
a Sega logo. It was a logo for Sega Heritage.
Yes, which Shenmue
Ooh.
HD, everyone.
Shenmue HD would be terrible.
Yeah.
Shenmue
Don't tell me that.
Shenmue
I
HD
don't
would
wanna hear
not
that.
hold up. Shenmue is
it
an
down.
open world game that came out before Grand Theft Auto 3. If you went back and played it now, which I've done a little bit on my Dreamcast, it's cute.
I want to play Pachinko in HD, man.
I'm sure there are plenty of games that will allow you to do that.
But not with QuickTime events.
Anthony Carbone's QuickTime Pachinko 2012. Pre-ordered for mobile.
Pre-ordered.
For iOS and Android.
You know what'd be pretty smart is if companies just took like some of their library, you know, some shit they had the rights to that they're not super worried about, you know, it being a legal snafu, and they put up like a poll on the internet, not a Kickstarter.
Yeah.
We're sick of Kickstarters, but just a poll. Who wants this? You know, maybe like a pre-order setup. You know, like just drop your vote in the hat. Which of these do you want to see get made in HD?
A company with a big N at the beginning of the name? What if Nintendo said for the Wii U, once a month, we are going to release an HD remake of one of our classic games?
That would change everything.
You could literally start with the Wii library and not put a lot of work into anything.
Yeah.
People were doing that.
720p.
People were emulating Skyward Sword. I know you did this with the Dolphin emulator.
Beautiful.
Legally purchasing the game, presumably already having a Wii, and then emulating it in 1080p because the friggin' Wii doesn't do HD.
Yeah.
This is something movie companies are always on top of this, right? Like, Blu-ray comes out, boom, here's an HD transfer of a movie. It's not even a great movie. Sometimes it's like a shitty movie.
Yeah.
And it's just like, here's your shitty middling quality movie, but we know you want it in 1080p.
Yep.
And I think it's great that the game industry is getting this. And they're like, oh, you want this this game's gonna be shitty, and we're like, no, but we like it, but it's gonna be shit. Okay, but I want it.
The difference between video games and movies, one of the many, there are a lot of differences if you haven't noticed.
Sure.
There's kind of I feel like there's more of a reverence for prior work in movies, in cinema.
Well, the medium's been around for 80 years longer.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, well there's, yeah, I guess so. It's been around for a while, but still there's this like, the people who grew up playing this thing, they're like, oh, I'm gonna, like, I respect the filmmakers of my youth. I want to try and, imitate them. I mean, it's, everybody watched Kurosawa. They wouldn't have Tarantino, wouldn't have Lucas if we didn't have Kurosawa. Stuff like that. That's why we got like the Criterion Collection.
Yeah.
They re-release stuff in like really fine. They finish it up. They touch it up. Where's that for games?
Sega Heritage.
Let's hope so.
I want every studio to put their version of Sega Heritage.
Kid Chameleon HD. That was the first game I ever played on Sega Genesis.
Well, is that your number one? What's your number one?
Eternal Champions.
You want Eternal Champions HD?
Eternal Champions or Jurassic Park for the Sega Genesis because it's infinitely superior to everything.
How about you? If you could HD remake one game, what would it be?
If I had to HD remake one game?
Yeah.
You know what? If they released like the Madden 95, 96 series in HD, how awesome would that be? That would be really cool.
That's what they do every year.
No, I want the top-down, old-school gameplay with HD graphics.
You're a dummy.
All right, what's your HD game?
Knights, and it's happening! Yay!
Fuck off.